Hello, I'm Anastasia Lavrina. Welcome to Context. Azerbaijan and Iran, two key neighbors with a complex but critical relationship, are embarking on a fresh chapter of economic engagement. Recent high-level talks have produced a flurry of commitments aimed at elevating bilateral trade to new heights, with aspirations to reach multi-billion-dollar figures. Agreements have been inked in a range of sectors, from transportation to energy, infrastructure to manufacturing, signaling a pragmatic shift towards mutual benefit after years of tension. Tehran's leadership has publicly reaffirmed its determination to implement previously signed deals, highlighting transport projects and border crossing that could transform regional logistics. In Baku, officials are also expressing cautious optimism, noting that improved economic ties could serve as a stabilizing influence in the broader South Caucasus. However, beneath the surface, long-lasting geopolitical rivalries and differing alliances remain, adding a layer of complexity to this economic threat. Can commerce truly overcome political mistrust? And will promises materialize into real, lasting change on the ground? Today on Context, we explore the hopes, challenges, and realities shaping Azerbaijan-Iran relations in 2025. Joining me from Tehran is Tora Shuralilo, political analyst. And from Baku with us today we have Ahmad Alili, Director of Caucasus Policy Analysis Center. Gentlemen, we're welcome to Context. And Turash, let me start with you. Iran has emphasized its commitment to economic cooperation with Azerbaijan, yet skeptics point to past delays and unfulfilled pledges. What makes this moment different?
Thank you for having me. There are a number of factors, but I would like to pinpoint two or three of them. First of all is the international sanctions imposed on Iran, which bars Iran from reaching the target or the desired agreements with the neighboring countries. For example, when both sides, Iran and Azerbaijan, agree on launching, just say, a joint railway project, and when it comes to the financing part of the project, despite of their political will, despite of the mutual interests of both countries, such projects do not come into reality. And at the same time, when there was a conflict in the region, South Caucasia region, because of these geopolitical differences and challenges, some other agreements or some other factors like geopolitical rivalry or geopolitical competitions stop these agreements to reach into implementation plan. Fortunately, this time around, because of the subsiding conflict in the South Caucasian region from war, real war, and a full-fledged war to diplomatic process, and also on the Iranian side, the intention of President Masoud Pezeshkian's willingness to establish and promote relations with neighboring countries, I think prospects are and seem promising. So far, what we see on the both sides, as during the visit was stated, from the joint political communique issued by the leaders of the two countries, as well as the 7 MOUs on different areas of cooperation, on ICT, on cultural activities, on diplomatic process, on scientific, student, and tourist interactions, the prospect is promising. But again, coming into action, there are other factors which bar both countries into coming into action. Iran's geopolitical location in West Asia, or as some still prefer to call it Middle East, and Azerbaijan's geopolitical location in South Caucasia give this opportunity to both nations to act as crossroads, as meeting points of the west-east corridor and the north-south corridors. But when coming into action, the question arises why there should be this deficit of trade between the two countries, as the deficit has been negative on the Iranian side. I was just checking a research by the University of Tarbiyat Mudaris in Tehran, which is a specialty university of training faculty members, and it's in one of its I should say, quarterly reviews, it was referring to this deficit, saying that Iran, because of the facts on the ground, because of the problems on the ground, Iran has lost its market in the Azerbaijani, its share in the Azerbaijani market to the advantage of regional, I should say, regional rivals like Turkey, like Russia, who took Iran's share, although Iran is neighboring country with Azerbaijan. But again, this time around, as I said, because of the subsiding conflict in the region, as well as the real intentions of the government of President Pezeshkian, and also, as he said yesterday during the joint press conference with his Azerbaijani counterpart, this development and designing of the joint plan of action, which we call the strategic plan, it is hoped that both sides can come to realities. Early April was the meeting of Joint Economic Cooperation Commission of Iran and Azerbaijan in Baku, and Iranian Road and Transport Minister met President Aliyev, in both sides that both sides can reach the agreements, reach the limit, and implement the agreements. But once again, facts on the ground, including sanctions, have barred both sides. But
Indeed.
There is hopefully the mutual determination.
Well, indeed, both leaders
implement
noted that there is a real potential for expanding the trade relations, economic cooperation, and obviously the transport communication in the region. And I will definitely come back to this question. But now, Ahmad, I have a question to you. Baku has expressed caution, optimism, but what safeguards or assurances is Azerbaijan saying to ensure that Tehran follows through on its economic commitments this time?
I believe that what happened, the meeting between presidents, the visit of Iranian president to Azerbaijan, it's a very positive moment in Azerbaijan-Iran relations. And in this context, I would say that it was a very long expected visit in Azerbaijan. In Azerbaijan, for a long time, we were working for certain positive development, especially with the attack to Azerbaijan embassy in Iran. There was this moment it was building up, and we were expecting that there will be certain developments. And I believe that President Pezeshkian, his statements, especially his statements in Azerbaijani, the Azerbaijani poems that he cited, that definitely create very positive effect in these relations. So the audience, the political establishment in Azerbaijan, I would say that there is a very positive vibe about this visit. And I would say that, of course, Azerbaijan is cautious about certain issues. Azerbaijan perceives Iran as a multi-voiced foreign policy country, and in this context, will there be other voices who will try to disturb these relations? That's a very important question for Azerbaijan also. Azerbaijan appreciates that Iranian president visited Azerbaijan during the times when Iran there was this disaster, so Azerbaijan considers it as a special gesture. But I believe that also it shows that each time when there is a certain positive development between Iran-Azerbaijan relations, we are witnessing some crashes, some blasts. So it's something that we have to take into account.
Ahmed, let me ask one additional question in regards to what you already mentioned. There is potential here for transformative infrastructure development in the region. What specific projects could be game changers, and what risks still linger beneath the surface, Ahmed?
Of course, the most important project in this context is the North-South transport corridor, right? So we are witnessing that President Aliyev and his diplomatic activity for the last couple of weeks, I'm not talking about the months, I'm talking about for a couple of months, we are seeing how actively Azerbaijan engages with Chinese actors and European Union actors. there was a very favorable, I would say, very positive meeting that took place in Baku, and President Aliyev's visit to China was there were quite many interesting moments that definitely leaves a positive impression about all of this development. So it means that Azerbaijan is very much interested in this West-East transfer corridor. But for Azerbaijan, it's also very important that its big neighbors, Russia and Iran, also they use Azerbaijan territory, and Azerbaijan provides a platform where everybody can benefit from this cooperation. And in this context, I believe that what's happening right now, it's of course like that by developing Iran-Azerbaijan relations, by developing logistical connections in the region, by developing the economic connections, and we were very happy to see quite many people in Iranian delegation with a certain, economic mindset, let me call them like this. So this kind of people attending these meetings, being part of the Iranian delegation, that definitely sends a positive message to Azerbaijan that Iran wants to extend the positive economic, wants to build more positive momentum for the economic relations. So in this context, of course, the very first issue is the Astara-Rast-Kazin railway project, but of course, it should not be limited to that. I believe that we can develop many other projects, and for example, the Araz corridor that's going to connect Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan. Azerbaijan is interested in all the transport links that it will connect Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan, both Araz, Zangezur, and the one that passing through Georgia, that's going to through Georgia might connect back to Nakhchivan also. So in this context, I believe that developing all of this regional project is very beneficial for Azerbaijan. For the last 30 years, Azerbaijan was focused on Karabakh issue, on its relations with Armenia, and now for Azerbaijan it's something in the past. So that's why Azerbaijan wants to build all the positive relations, economic relations, want to develop its relations with its neighbors in Central Asia, in South, in North, with everyone. So that is what we consider as the next stage in our foreign policy. So in this context, of course, the Tehran-Baku relations it's special.
So a bit more about regional logistics corridors to Russia. What strategic value does Iran see in accelerating transport projects with Azerbaijan, and in what ways could strengthening ties with Baku benefit Iran's economy and sanctions?
It's not just a matter of Iran's reliance on Azerbaijan or vice versa. It is a mutual dependency, which rather is called interdependency. And this interdependency or mutual dependency between neighboring countries is a very natural phenomenon. Azerbaijan is bordering East European countries as well as Central Asia. It is connected to sea, but not to open sea, although it is not a landlocked country. And Iran in West Asia has access to open sea. So in that sense, both countries can lend support to each other and in one way help what the other side is lacking. So this is a matter of interdependency. Iran needs Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan needs Iran. As bordering countries with a lot of commonalities, with a lot of joint values in terms of language, in terms of religion, in terms of culture, history, there are so many, I should say, promising prospects before these two nations. And the question that you referred to, Ahmad, and he was very, very exact in numbering a number of them. And Iran and Azerbaijan can cooperate in energy projects, in agro projects, in industrial projects. And also, if they invest in a sense, on tourism, some 20-25% at least of Iranians, when travel to Azerbaijan, they don't have a language barrier, and this can help them a lot to travel to Azerbaijan and also spend money there and get in touch with Azeri people and in one way increase P2P, people-to-people interaction, which will support G2G, government-to-government interaction. So these prospects are open. But when we look at what is happening right now in Iran, Iran yesterday opened Expo 2025 exhibition, and from some over 100 countries, 2,500 traders from different countries are here in Tehran currently. This is the 7th edition of Iran Expo. And when I was checking the list of participants, to my dismay, there was no mention of an Azeri participant or an Azerbaijani company coming to Iran. And this shows that both sides can take great steps. And they have a long way to go in order to practice and put into practice the agreements that they reached yesterday. Those MOUs signed need a lot of energy and a lot of effort to come into practice. And again, one point which I want to say that there are geopolitical differences between Iran and Azerbaijan. It's not concentric circles saying that Iran and Azerbaijan share 100% all their national interests, all their foreign policy. No, this is not the real fact on the ground. But the point is that these heterogeneous or these different circles of Iran and Azerbaijani interests have a lot to share together. I mean, the overshadowing parts between Iran and Azerbaijan are so great that they minimize and they dwarf their differences and their disagreements in that sense. And that means Iran and Azerbaijan can put these agreements together. There's another positive development happening which can potentially and hopefully contribute to Iran-Azerbaijan relationship, economic relationship, and that's the ongoing Iran-US indirect talks, nuclear talks, which is going on currently in the country of Oman. And if these talks come to a real agreement or even to a basic agreement of removing or lifting or easing sanctions on Iran, I think Iran-Azerbaijan relationship could be a factor of easing of sanctions, and hopefully they can promote their relationship, economic relationship, in the post-sanctions period.
Well, indeed, and some more geopolitics in our today's show. Ahmad, we do know about balance diplomacy Azerbaijani government is trying to follow, but could these closer ties with Tehran complicate Baku's relations with other partners like Israel or Turkey, for example?
So I believe in this context, Azerbaijan is a very experienced country. So at least for the last 30 years, Azerbaijan managed to balance between the interests of the quite big countries, big powers, and I believe that Azerbaijan wants to repeat these successes in a completely new level. So again, like that, Azerbaijan foreign policy is in a completely new stage. It's post-Karabakh conflict stage, so that is why now it looks for the new frontiers to reach and develop its capacity. So in this context, I believe that those limitations that Azerbaijan foreign policy had to face for the last 30 years, those limitations are no more. So that is why I believe that in this context, the successes that Azerbaijan foreign policy had in the last 30 years, since there is none of those limitations left, so Azerbaijan foreign policy will look for the, let's say, where are the new limits of this kind of cooperation, right? So again, Azerbaijan foreign policy is very experienced. It knows its limits from the last 30 years. Now it's most probably is going to explore the new limits. So that is why, in this context, I believe that Azerbaijan can do much more than they did in the past. And especially, I would say that, for example, if the main obstacle is Iran being under sanctions, under US and European Union sanctions, so there are certain projects that Russia can implement, or the financing by Russia. I mean, that's also option in this context. Or I would say that there are certain issues that Azerbaijan has a argument, and it's that Iran-Armenia cooperation, right? So there are certain issues that there is no reaction to that cooperation, why there should be a reaction to the Iran-Azerbaijan cooperation. So this is also of the game, right? So I believe that there are quite many new opportunities. Again, Azerbaijan foreign policy, it's in a complete new stage. And in this stage, Azerbaijan foreign policy wants to develop, and Azerbaijan foreign policy wants to develop, and all those opportunities that were missed in the last 30 years, and all of those issues that Azerbaijan foreign policy couldn't do for the last 30 years, now it wants to do. And I believe that in this context, Iran-Azerbaijan relations are going to be one of the important directions, especially, Suraj also rightly mentioned about the language, right? So one of the main issue in international relations is the language. So when it's about Iran-Azerbaijan relations, I believe that this is not an obstacle. Presidents, their conversation to each other, they're not needing any translation that can help them understand each other. So I believe that there are quite a big opportunities in this regard also. So I believe that it's basically not having language obstacle is the opportunity that we have not used in Iran-Azerbaijan relations, and I believe that we can use it in the upcoming decades.
Ahmad, you several times mentioned the post-conflict reality in the South Caucasus. Therefore, let me challenge you with one more question. Given the long-standing tensions in the South Caucasus, how critical is Iran's recent affirmation of Azerbaijan's territorial integrity for fostering peace and stability in the region?
So it's very important for Azerbaijan that there is support from Iran also toward its territorial integrity. So Azerbaijan is, wants that kind of principle position on this issue, and Azerbaijan is also looking for the support the last 30 years. Whatever attitude toward Azerbaijan on certain issues, Azerbaijan is looking for that kind of attitude to the other regional players also, right? Not more, not less. So that is the position by Azerbaijan, and I believe that in this context, at least we can witness that there is quite a good understanding between the Iranian government and Azerbaijani government, and I believe that Tehran and Baku, in this context, they understand each other quite well. The problem emerges when there are certain military drills or certain, let's say, people with the religious affiliation, with the other affiliation, they comment on certain issues. But when it's about diplomats, when it's about presidents, I would say that there is a quite important point in this regard is that they understand each other.
We don't have much time left, but before we finish this conversation, Turash, could you tell us if the deeper economic ties in the region itself ultimately reduce geopolitical tensions in the South Caucasus?
The general answer is a big yes. Not only in South Caucasian region, but globally speaking, when economic cooperation and welfare brings development, basically development leads to peace, and peace leads to security. So to give you a short answer, this is true all of the world. And as economic cooperation, again, leading to prosperity, to development, and development leading to peace and stability and welfare for the not regional countries, but the people in the world at large.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining our talk today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Well, as Iran and Azerbaijan pursue new economic horizons, the world watches to see if these neighbors can turn paper agreements into real prosperity. Beyond the handshake moments and official declarations, the coming months will test whether commerce can bridge long-standing divides. Thank you for watching Context. Stay with A News and see you soon.